What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're talking about the new Netflix musical film, The Prom.
Merry Christmas!
The Prom was directed by Ryan Murphy, who I think is an interesting guy. For the most part, he's known for two very different TV series. One being American Horror Story, a horror anthology series still going strong after 9 years, and the other being Glee, a musical dramedy series that spanned for 6 seasons. The Prom is undoubtedly closer to Glee on a much grander scale in this comparison, but that's easy, they're both musicals, right? Surprisingly, it's actually closer in spirit too, and I'll explain why in a second. Let's go back to hanging up our bibelot, and when we're done, let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, bibelot, a small decorative ornament or trinket. The Prom centers on a young girl who wants nothing more than to take her girlfriend to the prom in a small town in Indiana. But old rules and customs makes the school cancel prom for everybody just because they don't want one couple to go on the basis of sexuality. A group of Broadway actors shunned from the limelight decide to travel to this hick town in support of this girl's rights, for publicity's sake, but the more they get to know this girl and her story, the more it melts their hearts. As somebody that grew up in Indiana, I don't think I'd automatically say that Hoosiers are homophobic, which is a feeling that I get when I watch this movie. It's also not as much of a forgotten state as it used to be either. There's now been quite a few actors that have come out of my hometown specifically that most people will actually recognize. Dean Norris being one, and so did Adam Driver, who went to my high school, had my same drama teacher, ate the same crappy cafeteria food for lunch that I did. So I'm gonna do this film a favor and ignore the fact that a big part of the setting of the film is Indiana, because that's irrelevant. Instead, I'm gonna look at the atmosphere and the energy of the film, which is absolutely, positively astonishing. Like I said before, you can compare this film to Glee on a grander scale, not just because it's a musical, but because of the spirit. Glee was known to give minorities a voice, most prominently those with non-traditional sexual orientations. It did this through embracing themselves with pride and celebration rather than ignorance and passive tolerance, which is not good enough.
So fears all in the past, fading so fast, I won't stay hidden anymore. I'm who I am, and I think that's worth fighting for. And nobody out there ever gets to define.
The Prom is a film that goes through a mix of emotions from beginning to end, and it's never a question on how absolutely energetic it is. Something is always happening, and it's this film's energy that captivates the audience. Subject matter is often an important aspect to any given film, and intolerance is unfortunately always a hot topic because it's constantly relevant to this day and age. I just spoke about this in my review of Happiest Season, but intolerance is like poison. You can have your own opinions, sure, but intolerance spreads like wildfire and affects countless other people. And shutting down prom for everybody is a little bit more dramatic than I would typically imagine happening in real life, but I could see it potentially happening. It's not outside the realm of what we are capable of. And that's what's so sad about the film. Thankfully, The Prom leans much more heavily on positivity than negativity. Inclusivity over partiality. Acceptance over dissension. If you hate films that go for a political correct message, I got bad news for you. What about negatives though? Well, for the most part, I don't really have much to say here other than the songs don't always click for me. It has a very Broadway feel where the songs and their beats aren't always something that I was on board with, but I also get the feeling that the more I watch the movie, the more I'll get invested in the songs and what they mean. One of the other issues that I had with the film is the individual character importance. The group from Broadway and what they're doing in the movie is not super clear to me. For instance, the prom shutting down for everybody was already garnering acknowledgement from the government as a civil rights issue, which means her problems may have been solved naturally if these Broadway people didn't intervene at all. Past that, they all kind of blend in together like a four-headed beast. I don't really know what James Corden's adding to the film that, say, Nicole Kidman isn't. They're all essentially doing the same thing. But on the other side of that, I really liked the casting. James Corden made sense and felt right for his role, as did Meryl Streep and Nicole Kidman, as did Joe Ellen Pellman, and nearly everybody else in this cast. I would have maybe preferred an older actor for Keegan-Michael Key's part, since he has this thing for Meryl Streep, who is 22 years his senior. but it's not a deal breaker all on its own. All in all, this is a surprisingly well done film that even looks amazing when it comes down to the visuals. There's a lot of great stuff going on with lighting and color in this movie that impressed me. The cinematography and choreography during all of these little scenes of musical numbers is consistently wonderful. The commitment on all sides is great, making this a well-rounded film. Let's talk about the end score for a second. From a technical, unbiased perspective, there's so much thought put into how this film was made, how it sounded, how it looked, that the end result was nearly flawless if you think about it. You can't really fault it on many areas other than maybe defining individual character importance, like I said. This score is very good at 92%, but as for my personal bias score, this is even higher at 94% because for the most part, I consider this to be a feel-good film with an important message at the heart of it. One that I enjoyed watching from beginning to end. When we average out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 93%. 93 out of 100 possible stars, or an A-letter grade. I'm somebody that enjoys musicals, especially if they make an audience just feel good, which is exactly what a lot of us need in 2020. Not everybody likes a musical though, and a lot of people will run from them, which sometimes I understand, but other times I feel like it's unfortunate. The Prom is a film that I don't think you need to see if you're not a fan of musicals, but if you do see it, I think you'll get a warmth out of it that you can appreciate. Anyways, if you have seen it, let me know your thoughts. It's over on Netflix now, so do yourself a favor, check it out if you haven't seen it yet, and let me know what you thought worked for the film, what you thought didn't so much. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us. We think